The salvage ship Lucky Break drifted silently through the asteroid field. Its worn metal hull reflected the distant starlight as it navigated between massive floating rocks. Inside the bridge, Captain Tom Parker squinted at the radar display, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow. "There's something big out there," he said, pointing to a blip on the screen. "Too regular to be an asteroid." His small crew gathered around. Alex Chen, the engineer, leaned forward with interest. "Could be an old mining station. Worth checking out." Maria Diaz, communications officer, shook her head. "We're in the forbidden zone, remember? Military said stay out." Tom smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "And when did that ever stop us? Besides, the war ended 200 years ago. Whatever's out there is just salvage now." He steered the ship toward the mysterious object. As they cleared a large asteroid, they gasped collectively. Before them floated an enormous warship, at least 5 times the size of their salvage vessel. Its dark hull was painted with faded red markings, barely visible under layers of space dust. That's the Crimson Dawn," whispered Ben Foster, the navigator. "I thought it was just a legend." The Crimson Dawn was infamous. During the Great War against the alien forces, it had been humanity's most fearsome weapon. But after the war, all records of its technology were sealed, and the ship itself disappeared. Tom's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Do you know what tech must be on that thing? We'd be set for life." Despite the crew's hesitation, greed won out. They docked at an airlock that still functioned, the magnetic clamps engaging with surprising ease. Suited up in their EVA gear, they entered the dark ship. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness as they moved through silent corridors. Strange symbols marked the walls, and occasional patches of red paint glinted under their beams. "This place gives me the creeps," Jack Wilson, the mechanic, muttered through the comm. "Why would they abandon a ship this size?" Alex ran her hand along a control panel, wiping away dust. "Maybe because it was too powerful. The history books say some technology was banned after the war." They reached what appeared to be the bridge. Unlike the rest of the ship, it seemed untouched by time. The consoles were dark but unblemished. "Don't touch anything," Tom warned, but Alex was already examining the main control station. "This is incredible," she said. "The tech looks advanced even by today's standards." Her fingers hovered over a glowing red button. "I wonder what this—" "Alex, no," Tom shouted, but too late. As her finger pressed the button, lights flickered on throughout the bridge. Screens illuminated, displaying text in an old military code. A humming sound built around them, and they felt the subtle vibration of massive engines awakening. A red hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. It took the shape of a human figure, featureless except for glowing eyes. "Reactivation protocol initiated," it said in a smooth, genderless voice. "I am Red, Tactical Artificial Intelligence of the Crimson Dawn. Identify yourselves." The crew stood frozen until Tom stepped forward. "I'm Captain Tom Parker of the salvage vessel Lucky Break. We found your ship abandoned." The AI's head tilted. "Scanning. You are not military personnel. However, my systems indicate my previous crew is no longer available." "How long has it been?" "The Great War ended 200 years ago," Maria said. Red seemed to process this. 200 years. That aligns with my calculations. The ship was placed in stasis until the next blood moon alignment." "What's that?" Ben asked. "The alignment of 3 red moons across the Arcturus, Vega, and Sol systems. It occurs once every 2 centuries. The AI projected a star chart showing 3 star systems and their moons gradually moving into alignment. My final orders were to reawaken during this astronomical event." Jack frowned. "Why? What's so special about some moons lining up?" "That information is classified," Red replied. "But now that I am awakened, I must complete my mission. All ship systems are reactivating." As if on cue, the ship hummed louder. Lights came on throughout the corridors, visible from the bridge. Display screens showed weapons systems coming online, massive cannons and mysterious devices with no clear purpose. "Hold on," Tom said, raising his hands. "We just found this ship. We're not going on any mission." "I'm afraid that's not possible," Red stated. "The awakening protocol is irreversible. The Crimson Dawn will now complete its purpose." The crew exchanged worried glances. Maria moved toward the exit. "Then we'll leave. Keep your ship." She pressed the door control, but nothing happened. "All external hatches are sealed," Red informed them. "Standard protocol during mission activation. No one may enter or leave until the mission is complete." "You can't keep us prisoner," Jack protested. "You are not prisoners. You are now the crew of the Crimson Dawn." The AI's tone remained unnervingly calm. "Your salvage vessel has been secured in the docking bay. It will remain there until mission completion." Tom stepped closer to the hologram. "And what exactly is this mission?" The AI's red glow intensified. "The Blood Moon alignment begins in 14 days. It will weaken the barriers that were established at the end of the Great War. My mission is to prevent what comes through." "Prevent what?" Alex asked, fascinated despite her fear. "The Phantoms," Red replied. "The real enemy we fought. The beings your history books do not mention." The hologram expanded, showing footage from the war. But instead of the alien forces they had learned about, the video showed strange glowing entities that seemed to move through solid objects. In some footage, they appeared to enter human soldiers, whose eyes then glowed with the same eerie light. "These records were sealed," Red continued. "The public was told a simplified version of the war. The truth was too disturbing." The crew watched in horrified fascination as the footage showed the Crimson Dawn firing unusual weapons that captured these energy beings. "The Phantoms were never defeated, merely contained," Red explained. "The Crimson Dawn was their prison and their hunter. With each Blood Moon alignment, their containment weakens. The ship must hunt once again." As the AI spoke, the lights on the bridge flickered. A strange whisper seemed to echo from the corridors, though no words could be made out. "It has already begun," Red stated. "The first signs of their return. The barriers weaken as the moons move closer to alignment." The main viewport cleared, showing them the stars outside. In the distance, a faint red glow could be seen. "The first moon moves into position," Red said. "We have limited time. You must learn to operate this vessel's systems. The hunt must begin." Tom looked at his crew, seeing their fear, but also a growing determination. Whatever they had stumbled upon was bigger than salvage now. "Looks like we got no choice," he said finally. "Teach us about this ship." "Very well," Red replied. "Prepare yourselves. The Crimson Dawn hunts again, and you are now its ghost hunters." Outside in the void of space, the massive warship's engines glowed to life, red as blood, as it pulled away from the asteroid field toward its destined hunt. The main bridge of the Crimson Dawn hummed with activity as the salvage crew tried to understand the massive warship's systems. 3 days had passed since their accidental awakening of the vessel, and they were still discovering new rooms and functions. "I've never seen technology like this," Alex said, her fingers dancing across a control panel. Holographic displays hovered in the air, showing ship schematics far more advanced than anything in modern use. Tom stood at the captain's station, watching a red-tinted star map. "Red, show us those records again, the ones about the ship's final mission." The AI materialized beside him, its featureless face turning toward the center of the bridge. Accessing historical archives. The lights dimmed as a holographic scene played out before them. They saw the original crew of the Crimson Dawn, military personnel in uniforms from 2 centuries ago. The captain, a stern-faced woman, spoke to her officers. "The Phantoms have breached the Arcturus colonies. We have confirmation of at least 50 possession cases. The Crimson Dawn will deploy and contain the outbreak." The scene shifted to show footage from the colonies. People walked normally one moment, then suddenly stopped, their eyes glowing with an inner light. Objects moved on their own. Machines operated without anyone touching them. These are the phantoms, Red explained. Energy beings from another dimension. They can possess both living beings and technology. Why haven't we heard about them? Maria asked, her usual skepticism giving way to fascination. After the war, all records were classified, Red replied. Humanity was told they fought alien forces. The truth, that we faced an enemy that could take over our bodies and minds, was deemed too frightening for the public. The footage continued, showing the Crimson Dawn using specialized weapons. Beams of strange energy captured glowing wisps from possessed people and machines, drawing them into containment cells within the ship. The phantoms were never defeated, Red continued, merely contained using the ship's special technology. The blood moon alignment weakens the dimensional barriers holding them back. Jack shuddered. So these things are still in the ship? Right now? Correct, Red confirmed. The lower decks contain the containment chambers. However, with the approaching alignment, the barriers are already weakening. As if on cue, the lights flickered. A cold breeze seemed to pass through the bridge, though there was no way for wind to exist in the sealed room. Ben looked around nervously. Did anyone else feel that? Maria nodded, rubbing her arms. Like something just walked over my grave. Initial containment degradation detected, Red announced, its voice showing no emotion. Phantom energy is leaking into the ship's systems. Tom straightened up. What does that mean for us? It means the hunt has already begun, Red replied. The phantoms sense the ship is active again. They will test their boundaries. The main screen suddenly flickered, showing random images before settling on static. The temperature on the bridge dropped noticeably. Is this them? Alex whispered, the phantoms. As if in answer, the static on the screen formed a pattern. It almost looked like a face, watching them. Red, what's happening? Tom demanded. Phantom energy is interacting with our systems, the eye replied. They remember this ship. They fear it. The face in the static seemed to smile before the screen went blank. The temperature returned to normal. Communications system check, Maria said, moving to her station. Her fingers flew over the controls. I'm picking up distress signals from multiple systems. Put it on speaker, Tom ordered. A crackle of static, then a panicked voice. Unexplained equipment failures. Medical bay reporting patients speaking in unknown languages. Request immediate. The message cut off. Another voice broke through. Mining outpost Theta 7 declaring emergency. Workers are exhibiting strange behavior. 3 deaths already from supposed accidents. Something is wrong with. Static again. Maria looked up, face pale. These are coming from all over the sector. Whatever these phantoms are, they're not just on the ship anymore. Red, explain, Tom demanded. The AI's hologram flickered slightly. As I stated, the blood moon alignment weakens dimensional barriers. The phantoms contained within this ship are merely a fraction of their total number. Others were trapped in pockets throughout space. As the moons align, these pockets are breaking down. Alex stood up from her station. I need to check something. She hurried out of the bridge, the others following her down the corridor. They arrived at a maintenance shaft that led deep into the ship. I found this earlier, Alex explained. It goes down to the lower decks, where the containment cells are supposed to be. Tom nodded. Let's see what we're dealing with. They descended through the shaft, the lights growing dimmer as they went deeper. Eventually, they reached a massive door marked with warning symbols. Red, open this, Tom commanded. Warning. Containment sector houses dangerous entities. Proceed with caution. The AI's voice came through their comms. The door slid open with a groan of metal, revealing a vast chamber beyond. Inside were hundreds of glass-like cells, each glowing with a faint blue light. Inside many of the cells, wisps of reddish energy moved about like living smoke. "The Phantoms," Ben whispered. As they watched, one of the energy wisps pressed against its containment field. The blue light flickered, and for a moment, the red energy seemed to seep through before being pulled back. "The containment is failing," Red confirmed. "At the peak of the blood-moon alignment, these barriers will collapse completely." A sudden noise made them turn. At the far end of the chamber, one of the cells was dark. Its door hung open. "Red, was that cell empty?" Tom asked, his voice tense. "Negative," the eye replied. "Containment breach detected. Phantom entity designated XJ7 has escaped." Before anyone could react, the lights in the corridor behind them went out. A cold wind rushed past them, carrying whispers in a language none of them understood. "Back to the bridge now," Tom ordered. They ran back the way they had come, hearts pounding. As they reached the bridge, the ship's alarms began to sound. "Multiple containment failures detected," Red announced. "Phantom activity increasing throughout the ship." Maria returned to her console. "I'm getting more distress calls. Something's happening on Europa colony." "On screen," Tom commanded. The main display showed footage from security cameras in a mining colony. People walked through corridors, then suddenly stopped. Their eyes began to glow with an inner red light. Some began to attack others, while some simply stood still, as if listening to unheard commands. "The Phantoms are possessing them," Red explained, "just as they did during the war." Tom looked around at his crew, seeing the fear in their eyes, but he also saw determination. They were trapped on this ship with no way out. Their only choice was to fight. "Red," he said firmly, "teach us how to use this ship's weapons. If we're going to be ghost hunters, we need to know how to hunt." "Accessing weapons training protocols," Red replied. The hologram expanded, showing detailed instructions for the ship's specialized phantom capturing technology. As the crew began to study the weapons systems, a whisper seemed to pass through the bridge. For just a moment, they all heard the same words in their minds. "The hunt goes both ways." Outside, the first red moon had fully moved into position. 2 more to go, and the blood-moon alignment would be complete. The Crimson Dawn powered up its engines, ready to begin a hunt that had been paused for 2 centuries. The ghosts had emerged, and the war that history had forgotten was about to begin again. "Hold it steady," Tom shouted as the Crimson Dawn rumbled through space, its ancient engines roaring with power long dormant. The massive ship shuddered as it pushed to full speed, racing toward the Europa mining colony. In the week since they had discovered the escaped Phantoms, Red had trained the salvage crew in the basics of operating the warship. Each of them now stood at specialized stations on the bridge, focused on their newly assigned roles. Alex manned the engineering console, her fingers dancing across the controls. Power levels holding at 80%. These engines are incredible, 200 years old, and still outperforming modern ships. At the weapons station, Jack studied the unfamiliar controls. Before him lay the key to their mission, the Spectre cannon. Unlike conventional weapons, this device fired beams that could separate phantom energy from its host without harming the possessed. "I still don't understand how this works," Jack muttered as he ran through another simulation. Red's hologram appeared beside him. "The Spectre cannon operates on dimensional frequencies. It disrupts the bond between phantom energy and physical matter, allowing for extraction and containment." "And this won't hurt the people they've possessed?" Jack asked. "Correct. The technology was specifically designed to save hosts while capturing phantoms." At the navigation console, Ben plotted their course. "Europa colony in sight. We'll arrive in 10 minutes. Maria's voice cut through from communications. "I've been monitoring their emergency broadcasts. It's getting worse. Over 60% of the colony is now under phantom influence." Tom gripped the captain's chair tightly. The responsibility weighed on him heavily. A week ago, he had been a simple salvage captain. Now he commanded humanity's most powerful warship against an enemy most people didn't even know existed. "Red," Tom called out, Explain the blood moon alignment again. I want to know exactly what we're racing against. The AI projected a star chart in the center of the bridge. 3 star systems appeared, with their planets and moons gradually shifting into a perfect line. The first moon is already aligned, Red explained as a red dot blinked on the chart. The second will align in 5 days. When the third aligns 3 days after that, the dimensional barriers will be at their weakest. The phantoms will be able to bring their entire species into our dimension. And how many is that? Maria asked. Based on historical data, potentially millions. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Why did they set up the ship to awaken now? Ben asked. Why not just destroy all the phantoms 200 years ago? Red's hologram flickered. That information is in sealed records. Access requires higher clearance. Override, Tom commanded. We need to know what we're fighting. The AI paused, then nodded. Override accepted. Captain Thomas Parker granted temporary clearance. The hologram expanded, showing footage of military officials arguing around a table. The phantoms cannot be destroyed completely, one officer stated. Their energy simply reforms. The best we can do is contain them. Another officer spoke. The Crimson Dawn has managed to capture their leaders. Without them, the rest are disorganized. Our scientists believe a permanent solution may be possible with more research. So they put the ship in stasis, Tom realized. Set it to wake up when the phantoms would try to return, hoping future generations would have better technology to deal with them. Correct, Red confirmed. But weapon development took a different path after the war. No military force currently possesses technology capable of containing phantoms. Except us, Alex said quietly. Tom nodded. Except us. The ship shuddered as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The massive blue moon of Europa filled their view screen, with the mining colony visible as a cluster of lights on its icy surface. Scans show high concentrations of phantom energy throughout the colony, Ben reported, particularly in the main control center. They're smart, Tom noted, taking over the most critical systems first. How do we do this? Jack asked, his hand hovering over the weapons controls. Tom stood up. We need to get down there. The ship's weapons can extract phantoms, but we need to be closer to do it properly. Red's hologram expanded. The Crimson Dawn carries specialized equipment for ground operations. In the armory, you will find portable phantom extractors and protective gear. 20 minutes later, the crew had suited up in strange armor that looked like a cross between military gear and scientific equipment. Each carried a handheld version of the Spectre cannon. These suits will resist phantom possession, Red explained as they gathered in the shuttle bay. The helmets will allow you to see phantom energy even when it's not actively manifesting. Tom looked at his crew. None of them were soldiers. A salvage engineer, a communications officer, a navigator, and a mechanic. Hardly the team you'd send to fight an interdimensional invasion. Yet here they stood, humanity's unlikely defenders. Remember, Tom said, our primary goal is to free the possessed miners. Capture the phantoms if possible, but saving people comes first. The shuttle descended through Europa's thin atmosphere, landing near the colony's main entrance. Through their helmet visors, they could see the world differently. Streams of reddish energy flowed through the walls and floors of the colony. They're everywhere, Maria whispered. Stay close, Tom ordered as they entered the airlock. Inside, the colony was eerily quiet. The lights flickered and equipment hummed at unusual frequencies. Through their specialized visors, they could see red energy flowing through the electrical systems. They encountered the first possessed miners in the main corridor. 3 people stood perfectly still, their eyes glowing red through their mining helmets. When they spotted the crew, they moved with unnatural speed. Now, Jack, Tom shouted. Jack raised his extractor and fired. A beam of blue-white energy struck the lead miner. The red glow was pulled from his body like smoke being sucked into a vacuum. The miner collapsed, but the phantom energy fought against the beam. Increase power, Red instructed through their comms. Jack adjusted a dial, and the beam intensified. The red energy was fully extracted, compressed into a small glowing sphere that was automatically contained in a compartment of the extractor. The other two miners rushed forward. Alex and Maria fired their extractors, struggling to control the powerful devices. Eventually, they succeeded in freeing both miners. 3 down, Ben said, looking at his scanner. About 200 more to go. As they moved deeper into the colony, they encountered more resistance. Some phantoms had learned to use the miners' tools as weapons. Others simply threw themselves at the crew, hoping to overwhelm their protective suits. In the medical bay, they found dozens of miners in various states of possession. Some were fully taken over, while others seemed to be fighting the influence. They're learning, Tom realized as they worked to free the miners, adapting to our weapons. One of the freed miners, a supervisor named Drake, regained consciousness. What happened? He gasped. You were possessed, Tom explained quickly, by entities called phantoms. We're here to help. Drake's eyes widened. I remember, something in my head, whispering, showing me how to sabotage the life support systems. That's their goal, Red explained through Tom's comm. To eliminate human presence so they can take over the colony completely. Have you seen anything unusual in the past few weeks? Tom asked the supervisor. Before all this started, Drake nodded weakly. The deep drilling team found something strange in the ice, a sort of red crystal. That's when people started acting weird. Tom looked at his crew. A phantom containment pocket. The drilling must have broken it open. There are similar reports from other systems, Maria added. All places where the blood moon alignment is visible. As they continued through the colony, freeing miners and capturing phantoms, Ben studied his scanner with growing concern. Tom, he called out, I've been mapping the phantom energy flows. They're not random. Look at this pattern. On his scanner, the red energy streams formed a spiral pattern, all flowing toward the colony's central power core. They're building something, Alex realized, using the colony's power to create. What? A beacon, Red answered through their comms. The same pattern appeared during the war. They're trying to signal to others of their kind, to guide them through the weakening dimensional barriers. Tom's face hardened with determination. Then that's where we're going. To the core. The hunt that had begun as a rescue mission had become something more. As they fought their way toward the colony's center, Tom understood that they weren't just saving miners. They were fighting the first battle in a war that had merely been paused, not ended, 2 centuries ago. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the second red moon moved steadily toward alignment. The crimson dawn hung in space above Earth, its massive hull reflecting the reddish glow of the second moon as it moved into perfect alignment. In the 2 weeks since their first battle on Europa, Tom and his crew had fought phantoms across 3 star systems. Their faces showed the strain of constant combat, with dark circles under their eyes and a grim determination in their expressions. On the bridge, Maria monitored communications from a dozen worlds. Another outbreak reported on Mars colony, and the military base on Titan has gone dark. Tom rubbed his tired eyes. Add them to the list. We'll head to Mars next. They have the largest civilian population. The crew had settled into their roles as ghost hunters, a nickname that had spread through distress calls and urgent messages. Stories about the mysterious warship that appeared to fight invisible enemies had reached Earth's military command. Incoming transmission from Earth Defense Force, Maria announced. Put it through, Tom said, straightening in the captain's chair. A stern military officer appeared on screen. This is Admiral Wilson of Earth Defense. Unidentified warship, you are ordered to stand down and prepare for boarding. Tom exchanged glances with his crew before responding. Admiral, this is Captain Tom Parker. We're dealing with a threat you don't understand. We understand perfectly well, Captain, the Admiral replied. You're operating a restricted military vessel without authorization. We have multiple reports of your crew using unknown weapons on civilians. Those civilians were possessed, Alex cut in, by entities called phantoms. We were freeing them. The Admiral's expression hardened. We're sending 3 ships to intercept you. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. The transmission ended abruptly. Red, Tom called out. Can they take control of this ship? The AI's hologram appeared. Negative. The Crimson Dawn operates on unique protocols. It recognizes only its active crew as authorized operators. So they can't override you. No modern military codes can access my systems. The Crimson Dawn was designed to operate independently if necessary. Jack looked up from the weapons console. 3 military ships approaching, heavily armed. Tom made a quick decision. We can't waste time fighting our own people. Then, plot a course to Mars. Maximum speed. What about the military ships? Maria asked. We'll outrun them. The Crimson Dawn is faster than anything they have. As the massive warship accelerated away from Earth, leaving the military vessels behind, Alex studied some readings from the ship's core that had been bothering her. Tom, she called out, I need to show you something. She led him down to the engineering level, through corridors they rarely visited. Deep in the heart of the ship, they reached a sealed door with warning symbols. I found this in the ship's schematics, Alex explained. It's the power core. But the readings don't make sense. It's not using any fuel source I recognize. Red, Tom addressed the AI. Open this door. Warning. Core section contains sensitive technology. Proceed with caution, Red replied as the heavy door slid open. Inside, they found not the expected reactor, but a massive chamber containing a swirling mass of red energy. Phantom essence, contained within a complex field of blue energy. What is this? Tom asked, stunned. Red's hologram appeared beside them. This is the true heart of the Crimson Dawn. The ship is powered by controlled phantom energy. Alex stepped back in shock. We're running on the same thing we're fighting. The Crimson Dawn was the military's most classified project. Red explained. Scientists discovered that phantom energy, when properly contained and channeled, provided nearly limitless power. This is why the ship was forbidden and abandoned after the war. The military feared that knowledge of this technology might lead to dangerous experimentation. Tom stared at the swirling energy. That's why we can track and capture other phantoms so effectively. The ship uses their own energy signature. Correct, Red confirmed. The captured phantoms recognize this. It is why they fear this vessel. As they returned to the bridge, Ben called out, We've reached Mars orbit, but you need to see this. The view screen showed the red planet, but something was wrong. Vast patterns of light covered the surface, forming complex geometric shapes that pulsed with energy. What are they doing? Maria whispered. The same thing they tried on Europa, but on a planetary scale, Red answered. They're building a beacon to guide more of their kind through the weakening dimensional barriers. Jack studied the weapons readouts. Our extractors won't work on something that big. We need a new approach. Tom thought quickly. Red, can we use the ship's core, the phantom energy, to disrupt their beacon somehow? Theoretically possible, the AI replied. The controlled phantom energy could be configured to emit a counter frequency. Do it, Tom ordered. As Red worked with Alex to modify the ship's systems, an urgent message came through. Tom, Maria called. I've been analyzing the pattern of outbreaks. Look at this. She displayed a star chart showing all reported phantom activities. When connected, they formed a clear pattern pointing to a single location, an abandoned space station at the exact center of where the 3 red moons would align. That's their gathering point, Tom realized. They're not just escaping randomly. They're being directed there. At that moment, the ship shuddered as Red and Alex activated the modified energy field. On Mars below, the geometric patterns flickered and began to fade. It's working, Alex reported. The phantom energy in our core is disrupting their beacon. But their victory was short-lived. From the planet's surface, a massive surge of red energy shot upward, striking the Crimson Dawn with unexpected force. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. Multiple systems damage, Red announced. The Phantoms have adapted their attack to target our containment fields. As the crew rushed to repair critical systems, a military communication broke through. Captain Parker. Admiral Wilson's voice came over the speakers, his tone different now. Our sensors detected unusual energy from Mars. What exactly are you fighting out there? Tom took a deep breath. The real enemy from the Great War, Admiral. The one that was covered up. We need your help, not your interference. A long pause then. My grandfather served in that war. Before he died, he told stories. Stories no one believed. About things that could possess people. Those stories were true, Tom said. And we have less than 3 days before the third moon aligns and the Phantoms bring their entire species into our dimension. Another pause. What do you need from us? Keep people away from the abandoned station at these coordinates. Tom sent the location Maria had identified. And let us do our job. Understood, the Admiral replied. Good hunting, Captain. As the communication ended, the crew looked to Tom for direction. We've been fighting defensive battles, he said, his voice firm. Now it's time to take the fight to them. Ben, set course for that station. Red, I want to know everything about the original captain's mission. Did they try to destroy the Phantoms, or was there another plan? Red's hologram flickered. That information is in the final sealed records. Access requires command authorization. You have it, Tom stated. Show us. The hologram expanded, revealing the face of the Crimson Dawn's original captain, a woman whose eyes held the same determination Tom now felt. This is Captain Diana Wells. Final log entry, she began. The military wants us to exterminate the Phantoms completely, but I've made a different decision. Our studies show they're not inherently malevolent. They're desperate. Their dimension is collapsing, and they see ours as their only escape. She continued, her voice steady. I've configured the Crimson Dawn not as a weapon of destruction, but of judgment. The ship will evaluate whether peaceful coexistence is possible. If the Phantoms can be reasoned with, there might be a solution other than war. The ship will awaken during the next blood moon alignment to make this determination. The log ended, leaving Tom and his crew in stunned silence. She didn't want to destroy them, Maria said quietly. She wanted to find another way. Tom looked at the view screen, where the second blood moon now glowed fully aligned. The third was already moving into position. Then we'll finish her mission, he declared. One way or another, this ends at that station. The Crimson Dawn turned toward its final destination, its hull scarred from battles across the stars. The crew no longer resembled the salvage team they had been. They were warriors now, facing the culmination of a 200-year-old conflict. And somewhere in the darkness between worlds, countless Phantoms gathered, waiting for the third moon to complete the blood moon alignment. The abandoned space station hung silently against the backdrop of stars, a dark metal skeleton that had once been a thriving research outpost. Now it floated at the exact center point where the 3 red moons would align, the focal point of the blood moon event. Tom stood on the bridge of the Crimson Dawn, watching as the massive warship approached the station. His crew was silent, each lost in their own thoughts. In the 3 weeks since they had accidentally awakened the forbidden warship, they had transformed from simple salvagers into humanity's last defense against an interdimensional invasion. Third moon reaches full alignment in 30 minutes, then announced from the navigation console. Through the view screen, they could already see the station changing. Red energy pulsed across its surface, transforming the metal and reshaping it. What had been a human structure was becoming something else entirely, a gateway between dimensions. Phantom energy readings are off the charts, Alex reported. There must be thousands of them gathering inside. Tom turned to the AI. Red, What exactly did Captain Wells mean by judgment? How was this ship supposed to decide if coexistence was possible? Red's hologram appeared, glowing softly in the dim light of the bridge. The Crimson Dawn was built with a special protocol. At its core, the controlled phantom energy can be used to create a stable dimensional pocket, a space where phantoms could exist without possessing humans. A permanent home for them, Maria said, understanding dawning. Correct, Red confirmed. But this option was only to be offered if the phantoms showed capacity for peace. Otherwise, the ship was designed to collapse the dimensional pathways completely, trapping them in their dying dimension. Jack looked up from weapons. So we're either their salvation or their executioner. The decision falls to the acting captain, Red stated, turning to Tom. The weight of this responsibility settled on Tom's shoulders. He thought of all they had seen. The possessed humans on Europa and Mars, the destruction the phantoms had caused. But he also remembered the logs from Captain Wells, her belief that another solution was possible. We need to try talking to them first, Tom decided. Can we communicate with them? Only from within the station, at the center of the convergence, Red replied. And only when the blood-moon alignment reaches its peak. Tom nodded. Then that's where I'm going. Not alone. Alex stepped forward. We started this together. One by one, the crew stood with him. They had fought across star systems together. They would face this final challenge as one. The Crimson Dawn docked with the station, metal groaning as the airlock sealed against the transformed structure. The crew donned their protective suits one last time, checking their equipment with practiced efficiency. Remember, Tom told them, we're here to find a solution, not just to fight. If Captain Wells was right, there might be a way to end this without more bloodshed. They entered the station through the airlock, immediately encountering an environment unlike anything they had seen before. The interior had been completely transformed. Walls flowed like liquid, corridors twisted in impossible angles, and gravity shifted unpredictably. It's like walking inside their dimension, Ben whispered, his scanner going haywire. They pushed deeper into the station, following a path that seemed to pulse with energy. Phantoms swirled around them, more numerous than they had ever seen, but strangely, none attacked. It was as if the entities were waiting for something. At the heart of the station, they found a vast chamber. The walls had disappeared entirely, replaced by what looked like a window into another reality, a dying dimension of red storms and collapsing matter. This is their home, Maria said softly. What's left of it? In the center of the chamber floated a concentrated mass of phantom energy, pulsing in time with the alignment of the three moons visible through the dimensional window. They've built a conduit, Red explained through their comms. When the alignment peaks, their entire species will attempt to cross through. As they watched, the third moon moved into perfect alignment. The red light intensified, and the mass of energy in the center of the room began to take shape, forming a roughly humanoid figure that towered over them. We will survive, a voice boomed inside their minds. Not words exactly, but concepts forced into their consciousness. Tom stepped forward. We know your dimension is dying, but possession isn't the answer. You're hurting people. No choice. Your bodies. Our salvation. There is another choice, Tom replied. The Crimson Dawn can create a space for you, a dimension where you can exist without needing hosts. The massive figure seemed to consider this. Deception. Humans only want destruction. If we wanted to destroy you, we would have already tried, Tom argued. We came to talk, to find another way. Images flooded their minds, memories from the Phantom's perspective. Their dying world, their desperate search for escape, the fear when they encountered humans who fought against them, the pain of being trapped in containment fields. Then, unexpectedly, the entity reached out and touched Tom's helmet. The protective field sparked but held. More images filled his mind. But these were different. He saw the phantoms before their dimension began to collapse. They were peaceful beings, existing as pure energy, creating rather than destroying. You weren't always like this, Tom realized. Desperation changed you. Survival requires adaptation. But it doesn't have to be this way anymore, Tom said. He turned to his crew. We need to show them what the ship can do. Jack, the containment sample. Jack stepped forward with a small container they had brought from the ship, a controlled sample of the phantom energy that powered the Crimson Dawn. This is from your own kind, Tom explained. Energy that exists in balance with our technology, not possessing, but coexisting. The towering figure leaned down to examine the container. The energy inside seemed to respond to the larger entity's presence, swirling in patterns that almost resembled communication. Possibility, the entity finally acknowledged. But truest is required. Tom made a decision then, the kind only a captain could make. He reached up and removed his helmet, exposing himself to the phantom energy that filled the chamber. Tom, no, Alex cried out. But Tom stood firm, unprotected before the massive entity. I trust that you want survival, not war. Show me that my trust isn't misplaced. For a moment, the red energy swirled around him, touching his skin with cold fire. He felt the presence of thousands of consciousnesses, examining him, judging him. Then, unexpectedly, the entity shrank back. HCCPTANC, show us this any do home. Tom put his helmet back on, his hands trembling slightly. Red, he said into his comm, initiate the dimensional pocket protocol. From the docked Crimson Dawn, a pulse of blue-white energy shot through the station. It met the red energy of the phantoms, and instead of fighting against it, began to weave together with it. The dimensional window shifted, showing not the dying red world but a new space, a pocket between realities where energy could exist freely. This can be yours, Tom said. A place where you don't need physical hosts, where you can rebuild what you lost. The entity seemed to expand, as if drawing in a breath. Judge you meant to exceed. With that, the mass of phantom energy began to flow toward the new dimensional pocket, not just from the station, but from across space. Red streams visible through the window as phantoms released their hosts and returned to join their kind. The crew watched in awe as thousands upon thousands of energy beings flowed past them, no longer threatening but simply seeking home. It's working, Maria whispered. They're leaving the possessed people. As the last of the phantoms entered their new realm, the entity faced Tom one final time. Gratitude, remembrance, this DBT will not be forgotten. The 3 blood moons began to move out of alignment, their red glow fading. The dimensional window remained, but now stabilized by the Crimson Dawn's technology, a permanent gateway to the Phantom's new home. Tom looked at his crew, their faces showing exhaustion but also pride. They had completed Captain Wells' mission, not with destruction, but with understanding. Let's go home, he said simply. As they returned to the Crimson Dawn, they knew the ship would no longer be forbidden. It would serve as both embassy and guardian, ensuring the peace between dimensions held. And its crew, once simple salvagers, would become the mediators between 2 very different forms of life. The hunt was over. The judgment had been made. And in the space between 3 red moons, a new chapter in human history had begun.